Welcome to this episode of Now That's Good Chemistry, a podcast devoted to exploring chemicals in our lives. I'm your host, Susan Savage. We are broadcasting from our studio on the campus of Indian Hill High School, located in Cincinnati, Ohio. Mike Pierkowski, Indian Hill English teacher, is joining us today to share his passion, which I will relate to chemistry. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Sue. I'm excited to be here. When you asked me to come on this podcast, you said I could talk about anything I wanted. And as everyone knows, the one thing I love to talk about most is Frank Herbert's 1965 sci-fi masterpiece, Dune. You ready?
Yes, let's find the chemistry.
Okay, a little bit of background first. Dune, the novel, takes place 10,000 years in the future in a universe that looks very different from our own. For one thing, computers, or as Herbert calls them, thinking machines, have been outlawed due to the danger posed by artificial intelligence. In fact, they have a commandment in this book, "Thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of a human mind." So, 10,000 years in the future, humans have adapted to a world without computers to help them out. Some humans are trained from a young age to be what are called mentats, human supercomputers, capable of feats of calculation and logic. And luckily, a substance was discovered to aid with this transition, the spice.
Provide us with some details about the spice.
I would love to. So these mentats, again, human supercomputers, consume the spice in coffee, in meals, sometimes raw, to increase their mental abilities. And other humans, called Space Guild navigators, consume spice so that they can pilot faster than light travel. The spice gives them a certain kind of prescience. That means that they can see across space and across time to find the safe routes for travel. But here's a cool detail from the book. The navigators inhaled so much spice that they mutated into sort of humanoid, combined with like a fish sort of creature that must be kept in tanks filled with spice gas at all times. And certain humans, special humans that consume the spice, it can let them see other things in the future, not just across space-time for travel, but they can see events that haven't happened yet. But there's a problem, right? This all sounds great. Why doesn't everyone just eat the spice all the time? The problem is, it's the rarest substance in the galaxy. It only exists on Arrakis, which is a desert world. The locals call it Dune, hence the title of the book. And harvesting the spice is extremely dangerous, as the spice fields are among the dunes that are guarded by these huge, enormous sandworms. They can be up to 1 kilometer in length. And so it's the most valuable substance in the known universe. Only a handful of it will buy a home, a mansion. Well, what's it look like? It's a reddish-brown powder. It looks like dust, and it can have a gaseous form as well. What does the spice smell or taste like? Well, let me quote a little bit from the book. In Dune, the Lady Jessica notes that her first taste of spice, quote, tastes like cinnamon, end quote. Dr. Yua adds that the flavor is, quote, never twice the same. It's like life. It presents a different face every time you take it. Some hold that the spice produces a learned flavor reaction. The body, learning a thing is good for it, interprets the flavor as pleasurable, slightly euphoric, and, like life, never to be truly synthesized, end quote.
If there's one real-world spice most associated with a spice in your book, Mike, it's got to be cinnamon. The substance is described to have a cinnamon-like smell and taste. Some similar properties between the spice and cinnamon. Cinnamon is harvested in the inner bark of several tree species. And like in Dune, it's naturally occurring, and it has various positive health effects. It's an antioxidant, an anti-inflammatory, an anti-diabetic, an antimicrobial, anti-cancer, lipid lowering, cardiovascular disease lowering compound, and it is reported that the properties fight neurological disorders such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease. Now that's good chemistry. I want to thank Mike Perkowski for joining us today. Our technical supervisor is the Indian Hill Television Network director and technology teacher, Denny Dubs. Our script supervisor and editor is English teacher Tom Millard. Our graphic designers are students Liz George, class of 2027, and Ryan Kennebeck, class of 2024. Our theme music was composed by student Preston Marks, class of 2023. Thanks to the faculty, staff, and administration at Indian Hill for their behind-the-scenes efforts and support. Until next time, I'm your host, Susan Savage.